Thank you for holding this hearing. Ranking Member Womack, as well as Director Voigt, thank you for coming up here and attempting to defend this budget, which I admit, I do believe, is a failure to invest in our communities and does lack the will to invest in our future. This budget, I believe, takes a step backward. It really creates greater challenges for the families that I represent there on the Central Coast of California, especially those in need of affordable housing, good schools, and healthy meals. It does fail to protect our environment or address climate change. It abandons public servants deserving of student loan forgiveness, and it does make it harder for low-income students to afford college. It cuts Social Security even after the president promised not to do so, ignoring reforms like the Social Security 2100 Act, and it does sabotage our healthcare system by cutting Medicare and Medicaid. It does all of this while increasing spending on political promises such as building the wall. The proposed budget also pushes the notion that cutting spending is the only way to get our deficits under control. I believe that if we don't have the revenue to make the investments we need in affordable housing, nutrition, and education, in protecting our environment and fighting climate change, then we should not be continuing tax cuts that benefit the wealthiest and corporations. Fortunately, Congress, not the president, has the power of the purse, and going forward, just like in the past few years, I am confident that we will make more responsible decisions with taxpayer dollars than what has been proposed by this administration. Now, the president has promised to eliminate deficits. We understand that promise, we've heard it. Yet even under very optimistic growth predictions that are a full percentage point above CBO and the Federal Reserve, the budget would not be balanced till about 2035. Are there any independent or nonpartisan analysts who share those growth predictions, Mr. Director?
Congressman, this is a post-policy budget with its economic assumptions, and so the forecasters out there are taking the current law as it is in the current economic environment, and that's what's based on their forecasting. We assume the policies of this proposal are enacted, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's agreeing to the better trade deals, whether that's getting people off of welfare rolls. All of those things are policies that are assumed in the economic growth.
Mr. Director, if I can, reclaiming my time, I appreciate it, but once again, are there any independent or nonpartisan analysis who share your growth predictions, yes or no?
There are many economists out there who are advocates of economic growth at 3 and higher levels. Their forecasters out there, as I mentioned, are predominantly looking at current law and current economic conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Reclaiming my time, and I appreciate it. I just have a short time here. I want to get through this. The CBO has revised its estimates of the 2017 tax law's costs. Have you factored those increased costs into the deficit impacts, or is this administration still insisting that the tax cuts pay for themselves?
We continue to insist that the economic agenda of this budget, this president, everything from the tax cuts, its extension, the deregulatory initiatives, will in fact pay for the static cost of both the original score and the extension of the tax cut.
Thank you. Fortunately, I'm on the Ways and Means Committee as well, and we had a pretty good hearing yesterday about corporate tax revenues, or the lack thereof, I should say, as a share of the GDP, considering they're at a historically low rate and lower than almost every other advanced economy. Does the administration still believe that taxes should be reformed in any way on corporations?
We're looking forward to a Tax 2.0 conversation with regard to reform, and there's a lot of things that will be part of that conversation. We mainly are proposing to extend the tax cuts, but the administration will continue to work on other tax reform proposals over the next several years. I know there's probably been news in the press along those lines, and that's when we attempt to get to that discussion.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I'm from the Central Coast of California, and there are certain things that we are threatened by when it comes to climate change. Sea level rise, increased wildfires. Yet this budget cuts funding for the U.S. Geological Survey by 24%, and for NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, by 14%. Has this administration factored any of the cost of climate change into its models?
We have not.
Thank you. On the same lines, the budget greatly stifles clean energy innovation. It ends tax incentives for clean energy deployment, like the solar investment tax credit, It cuts funding for the Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy by nearly 3/4 and eliminates ARPA-E, which is Developing Clean Energy Solutions of Tomorrow. Without these programs and tax incentives, how will we be able to develop and deploy critical technologies to reduce emissions?
If you look at the totality of our budget, we have about $8.5 billion that's devoted to climate-related research and clean energy technology, R&D. So look, we do have a shift from applied research to basic research, but we still feel like we're putting a very strong foot forward with the development of clean energy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Now recognize